Today we're going to do an installation for anti-sway kit, anti-roll kit from Eibach on a 2013 Genesis Coupe. So I bought these used off the forums. They're a little bit dirty, but we'll clean it up. And so all that it comes with is the 2 sway bars and the polyurethane bushings. So make sure you also have some suspension lubrication, as I'll show you that we're going to lubricate each of the bushings on installation. We'll go through all that in the appropriate steps. But these are the 2 bushings. This is the one for the rear. Sorry, this is the one for the rear, this is the one for the front. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, first step is go ahead and secure your car. Raise it up. I actually have access to a car lift, and it's going to make the job a lot easier. Just to kind of go over some brief here. So this is the front sway bar here, and where the bushings go, attached to the end links. We're going to use the same stock end links. So this is in the front, and this is in the rear. You can see the rear sway bar here, and the very small end links that it connects to, along with the bushings. So we start off by taking off the bolts at the end of the end links that attach to the chassis. We're going to remove those 2. Next, we're going to remove these bushing bolts. And we're going to bring the entire assembly down to actually swap it on the floor. And this will make it a lot easier, and we'll show you why, because of this bushing here.
So you're ready?
Mm-hmm. And we bring the entire assembly down. Easy peasy. Very simple. And now we're going to go ahead and bring the other one right next to it and begin to do the swap. Comparison shot of the 2, the stock versus the Eibach aftermarket. And also remember to get some grease, some special suspension grease, because we're going to need to grease the polyurethane bushings. Now we're going to go ahead and swap the end links and move them over to the new sway bar. Now you'll notice there's 2 holes on the end of the sway bar. The one on the end is your soft setting, and the one inside is your aggressive setting, good for the track. I'm going to go with the soft setting since the daily driver. You also want to use some Loctite at the end of the thread for the end link installation for the bolt, and that's because with this high amount of pressure that's exerted on the bolt, I've heard that it tends to back out, so we don't want that happening, to get a loose suspension or to have problems where things fall off as you're driving. We're going to apply a little bit of the red Loctite, not the blue. It doesn't take too much, you don't want to overdo it. We can finalize the adjustments once we get it back. Repeat the step on the other side as well. Next we're going to remove the, I don't know what they're called, I'm going to call them C clamps, I guess. C brackets, we'll call them C brackets. We're going to remove them and swap them over to the new sway bar. Okay. We're going to put it to where we can get some leverage and take the brackets off. Be patient with it as it will come off. Slide right off. Okay, before you actually put the brackets on the new one, we want to apply a little bit of grease onto the sway bar underneath the actual bushing. So you can actually just slide the bushing off and apply a generous amount of suspension grease, and this will prevent any kind of noise as you're driving along. You can see it just sandwiches on very easily. No problem. I'm going to do this for both sides. You want to make sure to get suspension grease that's waterproof, heat-proof, you know, and actually friendly with rubber parts, rubber and polyurethane parts. I think Energy Suspension makes a set. I just didn't find any, so I got the Napa equivalent. We're also going to apply some grease onto the actual bracket, and that's just to keep both sides well maintained over a period of time. Once you get it on there, we go to the car and we finalize the installation. Now we apply some Loctite to the ends of the end links that will attach to the chassis of the car, to the actual suspension, as we actually get it installed back in the mounting hole. This is just a close-up to see how much, as we're not using a whole lot. Just enough to hold on the bolt so that it doesn't go anywhere. You don't want to overdo it. What we're going to do as an extra precaution is also apply some Loctite onto the bolts that hold the bracket, the bushing bracket, onto the chassis. Right over to there. So we applied a little bit on each of the bolts.
You can cut it.
Just wanted to show you that the reason we actually took the entire end link out from the car is you can see the you know, due to the angle of the bushing and the actual rubber that surrounds it, you don't want to disconnect it from here and cause, actually strip this or damage this as you're trying to pry it off. That's what was suggested as far as the installation goes, so that's how we're handling it. Now in the front, that's not going to be the case. It'll be a little bit different, but we'll get to that in its appropriate time. Okay, and now just insert your bolts into place. First start with the actual brackets on each side so you can have it lifted up, and then we'll do the end links next. And also, to help you, go ahead and slide in your end links into the actual hole in the chassis, and that will help stabilize it. Of course, whenever you swapped out the end links, I should have mentioned don't tighten it all the way for the bolt, but I think that's pretty logical, pretty common sense, so that way you can make adjustments on the go. And just hand tighten the bolts into place until we get everything up in its correct location. And now just tighten. Next, you want to tighten the end links. And be sure, make sure you don't have anything loose, and make sure that you're also tight on the inside as well. Actually, just to alleviate some confusion, we did actually tighten on the inside already with the pneumatic air gun, and it'll still adjust. The entire end link will still move as needed to get it positioned into place, even with this fully tightened. So that completes the rear, and now we will move to the front sway bar. Before we completely move to the front, I just wanted to point out that make sure whenever you have everything installed, I guess you should check before, that the writing on the sway bar is in the correct way, that it's not upside down. Okay, now we're going to start with the front by disconnecting the end links. Very simple, just disconnect the bolts, undo the bolts. Then we're going to do the brackets next. These two brackets here. It's easier in the front to actually do it from the end links at the ends themselves rather than the actual part on the strut tower, as opposed to the rear. Drop the assembly down. Easy does it. It looks like one of the brackets already came off, much easier than the rear. Okay, take the brackets off. And then we get our aftermarket. We'll put it right, let me see it real quick next to it. Yeah. Just to do a quick comparison shot of how much thicker and stronger it is. Again, the same rule applies, that the outer hole is the softer setting, the inner one is the more aggressive setting. I'm going to install mine on the outer setting. We're going to do the same thing as we did on the rear. We're going to apply some grease underneath the polyurethane bushing and over it before we put the clamp. Apply a generous amount of grease on the inside of the bushing, just like we did on the rear. to the clamp itself. Rather, the bracket, sorry. Just set it in place for now. Make sure that the flat side is on the exposed side of the bracket. And now we take the assembly over to the front and we begin the installation. Make sure again whenever you put it in that the wording on the stamp, it'll be below his hand, is right-sided. It is not upside down. That's how you know you have it in the correct orientation. And we're just going to hold it in place and then apply some Loctite on the bolts. Apply some Loctite on your bolts. Again, you don't want to do too much, just put a little bit on the edge. Put a few drops in and let it work its way into the threads. Also apply some Loctite on the ends of the end links. Now we go ahead with the installation. Again, just finger tighten in the beginning just to get it held in place, and then we'll tighten with the hair tools. And then install the end link to your preferred setting. Again, this is the soft setting.
Estamos en TV.
It's bigger than TV. It's YouTube.
YouTube, yeah.
It's international. Now we just tighten everything back up. And that completes the installation for a sway bar swap anti-roll kit on a 2013 Genesis Coupe. Again, this is the base model, but they all work identically. It doesn't matter what trim level you have. And as a matter of fact, these are the same sway bars that come off any year Genesis Coupe. So once you get a set, this is all you need to do. Thanks for watching. Hope it helps.